Alright, I'm just going to share a prophetic dream that I had the other night. It was a vision that when two people, well, it's dreams and visions, both. And that's the thing that we should all be rejoicing at this time, or having the same type of prophetic dreams and visions, God validating things with each other. And even though some are ominous, still God is speaking to us in His truth, and He has comfort over all the situations and the things that are here being implemented and to come. And the thing that we should really be rejoicing is that the increase of these revelations, of these dreams, is all prophetic too, as we're seeing prophecy unfold before us in the book of Revelations. And we should rejoice because we know that Yahushua is prepared to come to earth now. He was being prepared. Now He's validated to me that He is prepared to come to earth. So this was a huge just boost to my spirit and a quickening. So right now He's equipping His bride, He's testing His bride, and He's really going to clean house soon. So what happened is that the first vision that started with me, I was at a prayer room called the Upper Room, and everything is totally synchronistic with me every day. Like, I'll go somewhere, they'll be teaching about Acts, and then I'll go to the next place and things will just correlate and sync and be like exactly what you needed to increase whatever you were taught at the place before. And it's being spiritually fed from place to place and well to well. So two people were praying over me, and I was starting to have a vision while they were doing it. It's like they both came over and just activated the start of this vision. And what I saw was that Yahushua was standing right next to me, and He was so real. It's like as if you as a person were standing right next to me, and He looks right in your eyes. And He does this because He's saying, I'm not the God of their vain imaginations, like, hey, it's really me, look at me. So He was standing there, and the funny thing about this, that I thought was funny at first, but then I understood why He was in this pose, was that He had a whip in His hand. And I looked, and this whip was the same whip that He used in the temple when He chased out all those people that He was angry with at the temple for desecrating the temple of the house of His Father. So He takes the whip, and He's looking at me, and before us was a long, stretched out, white supper table, and the word Seder was on it. And Seder means order, a set order. When we have Shabbat, we're in a certain order. So that alone is just, there's so many levels to this vision and dream, and I'm sure it's going to still be interpreted by others. So the table was very long. It had white linen on it. He was in white linen. Everything was pure. Everything was spotless. And when I looked at it, it was really long, and there was like a crookedness to it, and there were like plates that weren't in order and things like that on the table. So then He took the whip, and He whipped the supper table. And immediately, it was like everything crooked got straightened out. Immediately, like in the flash of an eye. And it was Him saying that I am setting things right, I'm setting things in order. Anything that doesn't belong on this table is now being cleared. It's being taken out. All those things. Masonic pastors that think that they're going to eat at this table. Everything that doesn't fit, that doesn't belong, it's taken out. So He cleared off the table, and everything was like every wrinkle, every single detail, situation to make it beautiful, to have flowers on it, to have every seat perfectly prepared and set just instantly. When He took that whip, was just set right in order. So order was the huge thing that came to my mind, meaning everything in creation is going to be brought back into His order, and He is made Himself ready for that. He's made Himself ready to come for His bride. So He was saying that He is got things in the mind of Christ, the way that he wants them, the way that he has waited for them, the way that he's prepared them, but also it was this inward and this outward transformation that the table represented, yes, the marriage supper of the Lamb table, but it also represented so many other things and things inside of us and how we need to get our houses in order, and he is requiring that right now. He is expediting things, and it was just a perfect way that he did this move that just changed the atmosphere of the world when he did that. And he's asking us to come into his order, not the new world order, because that's all, he's going to scatter that all off. And it's really important, the plates and everything that was set, like it also represented like what people are eating from, how people are feeding themselves. It represented portions. It represented so many things just in that quickening. And the chairs were also very important, because the chairs, each chair was individually like named. It was individually set. It was, hey, your seat is ready here. He's got numbers. He knows who's in the book of life. He knows who is his bride, his remnant, his prophets, seers, oracles, apostles, his guests. He knows where the order and the set order of all of this is and is going to be, and how it's all going to play out. So I believe he's going to be pouring out many more revelations like this to draw us into his camp, closer to him before he comes to the earth, and that his light is going to be the only thing that is going to lead us into safety and to comfort. Those who really love him, really choose him above everything and anything in this world, because that's our portion. He's our portion, he was saying to me. Everything has already been prepared. So that's what we have to focus on. Now, above this whole marriage supper of the Lamb table was also a window of heaven that was opened up. And his light was shining through this window onto the table. So that was also important. Now, I asked him, what scripture does this mean, Lord? And he said Isaiah 31:4. Well, 31:3, basically 1 through 6 is the whole interpretation, but with what's going on now and everybody falling into New World systems and letting the government take over their bodies, he's warning that this folly also happened with trusting Egypt. So Isaiah 31, I'm just going to get to that scripture. It's exactly what is being played out, because everybody is being bribed, everybody is trusting in Egypt, and it's going to be so short-lived for them. And what's going to happen to these people who keep injecting themselves with the concoctions and the magic of Egypt? So the prophet showed the curse folly in trusting Egypt. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. I see everybody's asking and just falling at the government's feet right now in this New World Order for help, for safety, for these new mutations, new viruses that are coming out. They're just running to them for their safety and not even thinking about what God thinks about all these things when he's already spoken on all these issues. So he says, stay on horses, they trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they're very strong. They look not unto the Holy One of Israel, though, neither do they seek the Lord in all of this madness that's going on. All this propaganda, 24/7 propaganda. Come to Egypt. I'll give you $1,000. I'll give you iPads. I'll give you whatever. They're just continually bribing people now. Yet he also is wise and will bring evil and will not call back his words, but will rise against the house of the evildoers and against the help of them that work iniquity. Now, these people are trying to inject your blood, to jab your blood so badly, because the iniquity is in the bloodline also, and the hidden things that are in the vaccines. So this is also why Yahushua will say, depart from me, you workers of iniquity, I never knew you. Because they know exactly, the makers, what they're doing, what they're using in it, and how the iniquity of these ancient systems wants to take over the temple of God. So the whip, his temple, his supper table, everything has to do with our bodies, our temples, how people are just defiling themselves with the tattoos of Egypt right now from head to toe. And he also says, woe be unto those who defile their temples, because we're all temples of the living God. So if they disrupt those abilities within us and change us into something else, then we're not going to be temples of the living God, the living, holy Elohim. Now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out his hand, he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is holpen shall fall down, and they all shall fall together. For thus has the Lord spoken, like as the lion and the young lion roaring on his prey, when a multitude of shepherds is called forth against him, he will not be afraid of their voice, nor abase himself for the noise of them. So shall the Lord of hosts come down to fight for Mount Zion and for the hill thereof. Now all these pastors that are pushing the vax, and all these churches that are bowing a knee to Babylon, changing their temples, they're going to be a voice that speaks against the children of God, because the anti-Messiah is going to come through the Sunday churches. But the Lord will fight for this city that's set upon the hill, the real end times churches and the real remnant, and those who stay with him, even if they have to go underground. As birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over, he will preserve it. Turn ye unto him, from whom the children of Israel have deeply revolted. Now, this is what we see in this communist revolution here, is revolt and this rebellion against God. Because those who are directly at war with our God, we do not pray for these people. We do not try to save these people. The direct enemies of Yah, he'll show you who they are. And they're the makers of these vaccines and other things that are coming out like this. Then he also showed me Numbers 18:17. You must not redeem the firstborn of a cow, a sheep, or a goat, for they are holy. Splash their blood against the altar and burn their fat as a food offering and an aroma pleasing to the Lord. And he showed me Hebrews 18, because Hebrews 18 specifically talks about the priests, the Levites, and where their portion is and how they receive their portion. And it's not just in the burnt offerings and the sacrifices. This is talking about the marriage supper of the Lamb and how we preserve our portion in him, how the plates were already set, the chairs, everything, how he's made himself ready, prepared many mansions for us, all of it. He's already got our portion, so we cannot give our crowns to any man, to anybody else, to any science, to any government, anybody, and not trust in man, but lean into him with all of our understanding. So he's telling people right now, look at your plates, look what you're feeding yourselves, look what you're filling yourselves with. And he's reserved a portion of himself for his warrior bride. So this Numbers 18. This is also about keeping charge of the sanctuary. So the whip was about defiling the temple. We know that our bodies are our temples, and he's going to instruct his people at this time of how to keep charge of the sanctuary. How we're keeping charge of our sanctuary right now is being filled with the Holy Spirit. So if we take biotech that's been made with luciferase and other things, changing our mRNA, mutating us, we're not going to be keeping charge of the sanctuary. First of all, it's going to dim our spiritual sight. It's going to be a hard way coming back, even if you've got a first injection. Because if you get one, there's still time for you to repent and be saved. This isn't the market. This is just laying the foundational grid work for the biotech beast system to be initiated as a hive mind with people. Now, if you get 2 or 3 or 4, however many that they're requiring you to with the boosters too, there is a certain point that you will become hybridized. And it's already stripping people of a portion of their humanity. They're becoming more cold by the day. They're becoming more aggressive. They're destroying their temples of the living God, those who are along with this plan and just 100% trusting anything that the media and government tell them to, and then saying that they're a follower of Jesus Christ. It just doesn't fit, and it won't work together. They're letting their crowns be taken away. So what also correlated with my vision was my daughter had a dream the other night, and what she dreamt was that we were in a line and there were military soldiers that were putting people into COVID camps and other things in this line. So we went to the back of the line and we somehow managed to leave this area completely, not be seen, and they didn't question it, or maybe they didn't see us, I'm not sure, but she said that we actually had to go underground. And when we went underground, this is when fire poured out all over the land. And how we got underground was very interesting, because she had been given light codes in her hand, and these light codes were the same Isaiah 31:3, and she punched in 31:3 to get into this underground sanctuary. And before this was all happening and it got to this point, we were departed from society. There's two different types of humans, second-class citizens and the other regular type that have their passports and all their papers, and they're along with this whole system that they think is wonderful because of all the chemicals that are being pumped in their bodies and other things that are literally making prions in their brain and rotting their brains and changing them from within and their carbon structures. So they would see us and they would be like, oh, you guys really aren't safe, and just look at us like we were unclean, when in actuality we were much more pure than them, because God has avatar-like glorified bodies reserved for us that I believe He's going to change us to endure to the end before we even rise up to meet Him in the heavens, to be able to withstand all of these things. Because the tares and the wheats, what I saw was that the tares aren't exactly just evil people. The tares become evil people because they're splitting inside in a way that is going to make them hybridized. Now, this Luciferians and other stuff, my daughter said when they were looking at us, she looked into their faces and into their eyes, and she could tell they were some form of hybrid. Like they weren't physically looking like we did. And their eyes, the Luciferians probably is like a greenish Luciferian light. So, and I think that's also why Yahushua showed me at the marriage supper of the Lamb table that light of His from the window of heaven was pouring out onto the table already, sanctifying it, consecrating our vessels, consecrating every part of us to be able to withstand all of this and the beast system. So these people, they're full of biotech. They're going to be carrying all this Luciferian light. They're going to be mocking. They're already severely mocking children of God, calling them murderers, calling them all sorts of things. Their brains aren't even thinking rationally at this point. And it is increasing exponentially out there. So the interesting thing that I thought as well is that when my daughter said that we had to go underground after this societal break happened, that the fire was above ground. And this also is in Revelations, and it's in Revelations 12:17. And it's about the church fleeing into the wilderness and the dragon being angry. It says, Revelations 12, the dragon was enraged at this woman who fled in the wilderness and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments and hold fast to their testimony about Jesus. And he stood on the sands of the sea. But there's part of this revelation where it says that the dragon pours fire out of its mouth as a river. And then what happens at this point is that the dragon pours out fire from its mouth like a river. And in a dream, my daughter said that there was fire all over the top parts of the land while we were underground. Now this fire was the wrath of the devil, because he knows that he has a short time at this point in a way that he knows everything's going into a wrapping up scene. So it's an enormous red dragon with 7 heads. And this is the same dragon that withdrew like 1/3 of those stars in heaven, those intelligences. And at this point, there'll be great signs in the sky. There will be 12 main stars. There will be the birth pains that are over with, the travail of the earth reeling to and fro, the 10 horns, all of that will happen. And things like from the beginning to the end will be made known to us and revealed, and we will anticipate a new heaven and a new earth. It says, her child was caught up to God and his throne. She had a place prepared by God, and this is where we get the light codes from God and the access into safety and safe places. And this all goes back from the war in heaven, because it's talking about stars. And even in Sisera said the stars battled, meaning the stars themselves came down and battled. So we got the serpent of old at this point, and salvation coming. The accusers of the brethren are finally silenced because they have this hive mind at this point, and they accuse the brethren day and night, and then they're cast down. And then we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies, not loving our lives to the death, because everybody's being bought out right now. Everybody's selling out to China, senators, governors, you name it, and people are just selling their birthrights to get groceries and get their vaccine passports to get groceries. Well, this is nothing new, because it's a story of Jacob and Esau and all that, selling your birthright for a bowl of soup. Like, how easily are people going to be bought out? There's no amount of anything that this world can give you to buy you out, and your eternal salvation and sanctuary that's already been prepared for you. So the persecution comes at this point, fleeing into the wilderness, being nourished for a time. Then the dragon spews out fire from its mouth like a river onto where the remnant is, thinking that this is his last chance to carry these people away by his flood of the last wrath and fire that he pours out. But the earth itself turns the situation around. It turns the tables, because the earth is the Lord's footstool. And the earth opens up, and it pushes back this river of fire and helps the end times church. And it swallows up the flood that the dragon spewed out of its mouth. And then the dragon's enraged again, making more war with the rest of what's left on earth at this point, who keep the commandments of Christ and have the testimony of Jesus Christ living within them. So we know how this ends. We know that we have the victory. People cannot be weak at this point. They can't give in to these systems. They can't just sell their birthrights, their inheritance, for such little, measly, worldly things. Even if they offer you vouchers, scholarships, grants, it's all just bribes to get into their system, to get you on board, and to strip you of whatever humanity you have left in chance to serve the living God and to be his living gateways and temple in the end times. So I just wanted to share that, and something to think about, and that we should really be excited that we know the seasons are coming and the signs, and we know that the Lord's day is approaching, the great and terrible day of the Lord, but also that he's got his hand on every situation that his children are walking in, and he'll protect our DNA, he'll sing a new song over our DNA, and he'll show us more things combined from even the Old Testament that are miracles, and really elevate us into that realm of the miraculous with him if we just continue to declare his name over all these things and situations in our neighborhoods, our society, and continually to pray for all the things that we need to activate those angelic assignments so that the angels can fill their bowls and pour out what he wants to pour out onto the earth, and to be able to receive all that he has for his children at this time, to equip them. And with this set order and how he whips the table to in order is also, it's like equipping. He's equipping his bride right now in a way that I can't even comprehend. But the whip also has to do with horses too, and the war horses, and how his warrior bride is kind of like one of his horses, because God really brags about like his love for horses and how they don't fear. And I think he kind of views his warrior bride kind of like that horse, and that's another reason maybe why he showed me the whip. But I just wanted to share that, and if you have any other interpretations with it, feel free to comment below. Thank you.